Welcome to Willie D Live. We're about to go in with Bun B. But before we do, as always, we like to start the show off with a bit of good news. Today's good news moment is brought to you by Good Spy and comes out of San Francisco, California, where a pro football player is fighting on his knees for what's right. San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick has been the subject of both praise and scorn for protesting racial injustice and police violence by peacefully kneeling before each game this season while the national anthem is being played. Although the backlash from fans and even other team owners has been growing each week, calling his protests disrespectful and spewing the same hate towards him he is fighting to stop, the 49ers got behind the quarterback in a big way with a donation of $1 million. Though his protest has been seen by many as a swipe at U.S. military, that's hardly the case. Kaepernick has been very clear about what he wants: a better America, one that lives up to the ideals that the flag is supposed to represent. By putting his own money in to provoke change, Kaepernick is debunking the early criticism he faced about as a millionaire. He either shouldn't be able to criticize anything in America, which is ridiculous, or that he should be using his wealth to take advantage off the field. Some critics forget that he could both continue his silent protest and use his financial resources to improve the lives of others. Some continue to argue that this isn't the right way to go about protesting injustice, or that it's somehow not effective. The story that followed, however, has shown just how wrong they are. Soon after he began his protest, Kaepernick's jersey began skyrocketing up the sales chart on the NFL's team's store as fans flocked to load up on gear in support of the 28-year-old. Kaepernick has stated that he plans to donate all proceeds he receives from his jersey sales back into the local communities. Other athletes, such as 49ers Eric Reed, Broncos linebacker Brandon Marshall, and several others have joined in the protest as well. A successful protest isn't one that makes others feel comfortable. A successful protest isn't one that leaves the status quo in place. And a successful protest won't leave you universally beloved. Colin Kaepernick knows this. The others who joined him knows this. Yet they continue on. They have brought attention to the issue and financial support. It's clear they are winning. Y'all reach out to Colin Kaepernick and thank him for his services. In fact, make sure you reach out also in particular to Eric Reed and Brandon Marshall and all the other athletes and celebrities out there that's putting it on the line and speaking up for justice. Make sure you reach out to them. For more good news as well as daily motivational and empowering content, download the Good Spy app today from iTunes and Google Play. Ladies and gentlemen, Bun B is in the building.
What's up, OG?
What's up, baby?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Happy to be here with you. Happy to be here.
Man, let me explain something to y'all. This is my dude, right? Bun had been trying to get me to do a podcast for about at least 3 years. He's just telling me over and over, you need to do that podcast. Every time I see him, hey, when you gonna do that podcast? When you gonna do that podcast? When you gonna do the podcast? So I can tell you right now, if it wasn't for Bun, I probably wouldn't be doing this podcast, especially like this early in the game. I probably would have just been doing something else. So I want to thank you, man.
No, that's all good, man. I recognize early in the game with these podcasts that the people that aren't scared to tell the truth win in this game. So I naturally went to the person that I know had the least amount of fear telling the truth. That was you. And that's why I just kept saying, man, this podcast, and you were born to do this. Because it's uncensored, it's controlled by you. You control the content, the theme, the direction. And I'm talking about, man, this was just your world waiting for you to come be a part of it.
Right. I appreciate that,
man. Man, it's all good.
Man, you got your hands in a lot of things. One thing about Bun B, y'all know, this man has no limits. That should have been the name of his record company. Because he really has no limits, and you're able to move seamlessly, man, through all type of demographics. Like, I think you can do anything you want to do.
Well, that's the mentality I have, man. I've always been somebody that, I would look at things, be like, nobody that look like me or nobody that's where I'm from is in that or a part of that or doing that. And I'm like, I want to do that.
Right.
And I don't believe that just where I'm from should stop me or not allow me to be able to do none of this stuff.
Right.
So I know that there's obstacles. I know things that I might want to do are going to be hard and difficult, but nothing is impossible.
Right.
So I'm like, I got all the time in the world as far as I'm concerned, so I'm going to just go for it. And if I hadn't had that mentality, I wouldn't even be an MC.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's how I looked at it. Like, man, if anybody else could do it, I can do it. All I got to do is see somebody do it, watch him do it, and I'm like, yeah, okay, he can do it, I can do it. God made us all in his image. We all even. So it's really about the initiative in you as far as how far you can go in life, especially when you don't have no resources. And I've seen people with less do way more than I had done. So I'm like, man, I got to go for it.
Right.
So I just started throwing things up against the wall. The rap thing worked. So we just started trying other things, man. And, everything don't work. But the things that don't work, I still learn from that to make the next thing work. So,
right.
And I ain't scared to try something. I ain't scared for somebody to tell me no. I ain't scared to tell somebody no. And as long as you're willing to do that and live with the consequences of your actions, you'd be surprised how far you can go in life.
Right, right. I saw you doing the symphony, man. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What's Bun doing?
I didn't even.
It didn't surprise me though, but I was just still. It was just like it blew me away that another door.
Yeah, I mean, it was something that, when it came to me, I was nervous about it because I didn't really understand it. It was the 100-year anniversary of the symphony, but even beyond that, it was the 100-year anniversary of the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League.
Right.
So they were both in conjunction putting together this ceremony, and one of the benefactors of the Houston Symphony wanted to bring like a couple of hundred kids to the symphony who had never been to the symphony, kids from the inner cities, black kids, Latino kids, to the symphony to see something. They were like, well, we're going to show them a lot of things that they have never seen before. Is there a way to incorporate something that they might have kind of seen before? And they were like, well, that would probably be rap.
Right.
And they were like, well, what kind of rap would be appropriate and who would be appropriate in presenting it? So they came up with the idea of the song that they wanted to do, but they were like, well, who would do the song? Like, is it disrespectful to ask a rapper to do another rapper's song? So the song they wanted to do was Where's the Love by Black Eyed Peas. So when they approached me, I was like, well, what I can do is we can take that theme and those lyrics and I can change the lyrics about a little bit of the song to talk about the people that we're talking about and the accomplishments that they've achieved. It was all about Houston legends and Houston civil rights activists locally. So I just I was part of the education segment. So I just incorporated the different people in the education segment that they were honoring that night and put their names and their accomplishments into the rhyme. I presented it to them early to let them see exactly what it was, and they were like, this is exactly what we wanted.
But what was the vetting process painstaking, or it was something that could happen?
Yeah, no. I mean, keep in mind, because it was a symphony and of course the ADL, there were certain things that certain people were worried about. In particular, my proximity to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in several instances, particularly when I introduced him at Prairie View. So they presented me with papers and just said, we just want you to know the type of person that you're associating with,
Right.
I told him, I said, and that's fine. I said, but just keep in mind, when I met with him, he didn't give me any papers on y'all, So
right.
That's not, I don't want to start getting into that kind of a thing. If you want me to be a part of this program, I'm willing to do it. And if my proximity to the minister makes you scared, then that's fine. And they were like, well, we had gotten word that there might be this Hollywood Reporter story that might be coming out about your association with the minister. I'm like, well, there are people who would get nervous about my association with the ADL.
Exactly.
I took that into consideration, and I still proceeded, to work with y'all because I believe in what you stand for. I also believe in what he stands for, and I don't feel a need to draw a line in the sand.
Right.
And eventually they were like, you know what, we'll stand with you. And the story never came out. The worries that they had never showed themselves, and everybody stuck through it, and eventually we went up there and made an amazing event happen and made history happen in Houston, man.
Man, I'm getting chills because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, this is the example of a man. You see, a lot of you guys out there, a lot of people out there, they compromise their principles. They'll unfriend people because that friend that they have it does not fit the agenda of another friend or associate.
Right.
I don't allow anybody to pick my friends for me.
Absolutely.
You know, you got people out there that try to pick your friends. Well, you're going to be friends with him. You can't be friends with me. And I well, see ya. You know, you can't control me. You can't tell me who I can be friends with. I'm going to be friends with who the hell I want to be friends with. And if you got a problem with that, that's your problem,
right,
not mine.
Once you start letting people make any decision in your life, they'll try to make every decision.
Exactly.
In your life. You got to let people know. Like I said, I've never been a person that was scared to tell somebody no. You have to be very adamant about where you at. And like I said, you have to let people know who you are and where you stand, because people will try you all day, every day, you know. And I'm not one for it. I'm not one for the mess. I carry myself a certain way. I talk a certain way in public. But if you really know me and if you know me, you know I ain't for the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Just point blank period. I'm not really for it. I try to find the best way to handle the situation, because everything don't have to come to that, but be prepared to go to that. You know? But at 43 years old, I shouldn't have to beat on my chest behind everything. There's a calculated way to do things. And I know a lot of people who have 100 times more power and strength than I do, and they let their voice and their actions do the talking. So that's the kind of man that I try to be, and so far it's got me pretty far in life. Got you really far in life. I mean, Professor Bun B. Come on, man. Yeah. Now, how did you get that gig? So I went to the class and interviewed with Dr. Penn. So Dr. Penn had already been teaching the class at Rice University for several years. I came in as to be interviewed, and I got to talk to him before the class, and we talked after the class. I noticed several books on the shelf in his office that I had read. We talked about those books. I realized we had a lot of the same viewpoints, and even in things that we didn't agree with, we were able to conversate with that and maturely disagree about certain things. You know, Dr. Penn is, teaches humanities and religious studies course. He's head of the religious studies department, but he's a practicing atheist. Right. You know what I'm saying? So now, how did that, so that was the very interesting thing about it, because it wasn't like easy. I mean, you had to do some research to get this. Yeah, this was, having the idea of doing this class together was one thing. Once I got over my initial nervousness about it, because my thing is, if I'm going to do it, I have to be able to do it right, because if I mess this up, hip hop as a culture looks bad, me as an artist look bad, Dr. Penn as an educator looks bad, and Rice looks bad as an institution. So I have to take all these things into consideration before I decide to take that on. And once we did that, we were like, okay, well, how does a class with me and you teaching work? What are the books? What is the curriculum? How long is the class? How long do I speak? How long do you speak? How long do we take questions? What's the reading? What's the extra credit reading? All this kind of stuff. And we have to agree on this stuff. Right. We don't necessarily agree on everything, but we can agree on a lot of the principles and the base behind a lot of ideologies, as far as Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, and just spirituality in general. And then we take the kids through that conversation that he and I have, and the ideas that we have, and the sides of these issues that we stand on, and we present them to the class in as neutral and a setting as possible, and then allow them to have their own ideas about it. See, that's the thing about my class, as far as terminology and, defining things and so forth, that kind of thing, yeah, that'll be on the test. But the deeper part of my class, and the part that's most essential, is the students being allowed to have their own independent opinions. We encourage that. It's not just about a yes or a no answer. How do you actually perceive this? If I say, what is this, then that. Well, how does that relate? Then that's on you. That's, I tell you, it takes a lot of courage to teach a class like that, because I always tell people the two things that I would never try to change the mind of someone or the opinion of is a person's religion and their politics. Hey, man, whatever you believe, that's what you believe. I'll state my fact, I'll state what I feel or whatever, but if that's how you feel, hey, man, feel on. And my thing is, our class isn't to make them think like I think or to think how Doc Penn thinks, but to challenge the way we both look at it if need be. You know what I'm saying? And to challenge the way that the world has been presented to you, and to find your own outlook on things, your own ideas and concepts as far as what you want spirituality or religion to mean to you, so that it makes you a better person. See, some people or they're in a religion and it doesn't make them a better person. It's more of a burden. They feel like they got to go to church. They have to do this.
Right.
They're not really. So if it's more of a burden, then why are you doing it? Because it's not necessarily making you a better person. Maybe you need to find a different practice or a different thing that makes you a better person. For some people, being a part of hip hop, being a part of the culture, that makes them a better person. And if that makes you a better person, then that whatever makes you a better person should be your religion. And the practices that make you know what I'm saying? What the practices that make you want to help your fellow man, it's not about being, you know, because everybody's not going to do things with the idea of there being payoff later in life. So,
right.
But whatever it is that makes you feel the need to help your fellow man and help contribute to society and to the world, then that's your spirituality, because that's what feeds your spirit.
Right.
So we challenge people to, we challenge the idea of religion as an institution. You know what I'm saying? Religion is having to be in a church in front of an elder and all of that. You know, what makes you a better person? That's your religion. You know what I'm saying?
Have y'all been able to flip anybody that was an atheist over to being a believer, or a believer over to saying, you know what, man, I think I want to be an atheist too?
No, you have a lot of students. A lot of the students that take my class are religious studies students. That's the degree that they're going for.
Okay.
So they're dealing on a lot of different levels with these kind of ideas and things already before they even come into this class. This is just one of many classes that lead them down this road, this path that they want to walk. So for them, it's really about just having a deeper understanding of it so that they can understand if that's a path they want to go. Maybe they were raised Baptist, they're looking at Judaism, and they want to understand it deeper so they would know exactly if that's something they want to do. Because if the traditions and the practices are things that are a problem, then maybe you don't need to go from baptism to Islam, from Christianity to Islam, because Islam is Orthodox Islam has a lot more practices and is a lot more stricter and demands a lot more personal accountability on some aspects than Christianity. So if you're worried about the practice, then you might need to move away from that.
Right.
So for us, it's not about making a person that doesn't believe in God believe in God. It's all about, well, what makes you a good person? Because for some people, it's the fear of God. Right. But if you don't believe in God, then there is no fear of God. So then what makes you decide to even open the door for somebody to let them walk through? You know what I'm saying?
Man, this guy right here, this guy, man, I love the way you think, man. Let me ask you this, man. Is anybody keeping a tally on artists most featured on songs? Because I'm sure you're at the top.
I'm probably in the top 5.
You up there somewhere, man.
I'm in the top 5, but I know people like Busta Rhymes got an early jump on me. I
know Wayne. No. Face do not do as many features as you do.
He used to. I caught up with him, but I think a person like Lil Wayne for sure.
Yeah,
got a lot of verses out there. I think when it's all said and done, I'll probably end up in the top 3 maybe. I know I'm in the top 5.
Sure. I think it's got to be top 3.
I think people would be surprised that I turn down a lot more work than I do.
Is that right?
Yeah, because a lot of people, a lot of the feature work that come with me is people feel like they can pay me for the right to use my terminology and adopt my brand. So a lot of times people want to do a song with me just so they can go from that point on
and start using trill
and all of that, as if it's a cosign from me.
Right.
So there's a lot of songs that I turn down. A lot of them want to use a Pimp C sample and kind of copy Pimp C style, so they want me on the verse as a cosign.
Right, the cosigner. It's okay if Bun on the song. Ain't nobody gonna say nothing about it.
Exactly. So I turn down a lot more than I do.
Right.
And a lot of it's on principle. And those are the ones that come with the real paper.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because they trying to pay to play.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And them the ones where you really got to stand on principle. I've been here long enough to know that money not going nowhere. As long as you stay out there and you stay viable, feature work and concerts, all that stuff. It may not be as big as it was when the biggest record was, but if you're consistent in the way you carry yourself in character, you can consistently find ways to eat in this industry.
Right.
But once you start doing it strictly for the money, you will eventually compromise yourself, and people will realize you ain't the man they thought you was, and they gonna quit fucking with you.
Right. We're gonna talk about these so-called men when we come back. You dig?